Welcome to Successful Philanthropy. I'm Jean Shafiroff, your host, and today with us I have two very special men. First, Russ Calemmo with the East Hampton Food Pantry, and then Hilton Crosby with Heart of the Hamptons. Welcome both of you, and Russ, can we start with you, and can you tell me a little bit about the East Hampton Food Pantry and what you're experiencing right now?
Well, actually, it's based on our client load. Interestingly enough, we would have an average of so many people per week, and it would go plus and minus depending on the season.
And how many people was that about?
Well, pre-COVID, we would feed anywhere between 1,000 to 1,500 people a month. Mm-hmm. Now that has jumped fourfold, and I think in May, we fed almost 4,000 people in 1 month. Now it's sliding down a little bit more and more, but still it's the same workload.
Meaning you're giving out as much food as you were
in
May?
Well,
or?
we changed around the weekly to bi-weekly, and the reason for that was because it was just too much for us to get everything prepared. So by doing that, I mean, it was a long, drawn-out day. We work usually from 9 in the morning till 6 with our volunteers to distribute the food accordingly. But it was easy for us to do that as opposed to once a week. However, we hopefully going to go back to once a week coming up in October.
Yes, and at Heart of the Hamptons, which is in Southampton, Hilton, how many people are you feeding every week? And what is the difference now with the pandemic well, we're a little better right now,
right?
But tell me, how many are you feeding a week?
Okay, so before COVID in 2019, in the first week of August, we served around 39 families. This week, yes, this week.
And how many a month does that translate to?
In a month, in August, we did 246 families in 2019. Wow. And then in 2020, in August, we have done just about 500 families, and we do around 120 to 125 weekly. Mm-hmm. So we've seen...
So quite a few, but East Hampton clearly seems to have an even greater need than Southampton, but what we're finding here on the eastern end of Long Island during this pandemic is that there's a real serious food crisis for many, many people. And when people think of the Hamptons, they think of a lot of wealthy New Yorkers or celebrities flying in from Los Angeles, and then Europeans coming here to vacation and be in the sun. But in reality, there's tremendous need here. And one of the things that we all have to realize is that the Hamptons is not just the playground for the rich, but it's a place where real people live and where real people suffer. And so now getting back to East Hampton and this need, and tell me, so people come up in their cars and you give out food, and do you vet these people? Do you ask questions? Do you have a job, or what do you do if...
it's an extensive application. You just don't come in and say, give me food. We will do that based on a preliminary investigation relevant to the application. However,
so there has to be a need.
Absolutely. And a family, you know, it goes on a lot more than just getting food. We want to make sure that we're giving food to folks who really need it.
Of course.
And so we have an operation that we put together some years ago. We have cards, and on that card is all the data that we need to know about that family. So as soon as that family's card is read, we know automatically what to give them as far as food is concerned, the amount relevant to children, adults, senior citizens, so forth and so on.
So you really have this organized, because I was reading in the newspapers that across the country, especially in places like New York City, where all of a sudden you have this massive increase in need, going from, say, at some food pantries where 100 families used to go, there were now 1,000 families.
Exactly.
That there were no questions asked, that people could just come. And I think in the beginning of the food pandemic, that made sense. And because, or in the beginning of the whole COVID-19 pandemic that caused this terrible food insecurity. But also, you have to think about, well, you don't want people coming up who are taking advantage of the system. And so what do you do, Hilton?
I'd like to say that Heart of the Hamptons encourages people to take advantage of our food pantry because it is an economic stimulus for them, whereas it makes it so that they are not having to ask us in our financial program to cover their light bill, whereas they would have to choose to pay for the food or to contribute to their light bill. So on average, we distribute about 9 meals per person per household for the distribution, and we've had to alter our distribution because we exist in a basement at Sacred Hearts Church in Southampton Village.
I know where it is, yes.
And so what we have done, we have a card system which we created ourselves that has the demographic data and information for our member agency requirements for the food banks, Long Island Cares and Island Harvest. And we report those numbers, which contributes to the overall united front of fighting food insecurity in America, which is Feeding America. And that's how Feeding America gets their statistics, or is from places like East Hampton and Heart of the Hamptons.
Yes, and what we're hearing is that a true food insecurity exists here on the eastern end of Long Island in the Hamptons, and that there are really very, very few people that would abuse the system because there is great need, and most people just wouldn't do that. And that came to my mind because recently I read a New York Times article that showed people driving up in Mercedes and big fancy SUVs, but in actuality, those people are people who've lost their jobs, and yes, they still have the fancy car, but they can't feed their families, and that's a real issue. So, so getting back to food insecurity on Long Island, and a few weeks ago I had on this show Paul Pachter. He is executive director of Long Island Cares, which is the largest food pantry on Long Island. And he spoke about the tremendous need here on Long Island because we have so many millions of people in this country out of work today, and that translates into no food on the table and no ability to pay rent and mortgage bills, and maybe no ability to pay for school supplies for children and a host of other things, medications, you name it. And the unemployment benefits are very important, but the food pantries play a tremendous role in helping those that are in this terrible situation where they don't have a job right now, they've been furloughed, or maybe they've lost their job. And there are people now that we're seeing who were at the top of their pyramid, and now all of a sudden they don't have a job. And with expenses being so high in this country, there's a tremendous, tremendous need to help these people, because most people in the United States have to live paycheck to paycheck because of the high expenses, the high cost of living. And here in the Hamptons, the cost of living, food bills, everything is very, very expensive. So the two of you are doing extraordinary work. And you know, I have two men who, Russ, I'm sorry, you're a volunteer.
Yes.
Correct. And so I understand in your work job you have a lamp. You're the lamp doctor. You repair lamps.
My gigs, at the lamp shop, going on 40 years. It's a unique business, and I deal with a lot of people. Interesting. As a matter of fact, I write essays about my customers because some of the stories they come up with their lamps, it boggles your mind. I mean, they're so attached to these things, and it's pretty nice, and I have a lot of fun doing it, I might add. I'm glad to go to work in the morning. How's that sound? That's
amazing. That's wonderful. Most people don't feel that way. So then you, in your spare time, you're at this food pantry, at the East Hampton Food Pantry. Well, that's a beautiful thing. And so Russ is a true philanthropist. He's a man who has a full-time business, and in his spare time, he volunteers to help out the East Hampton Food Pantry. Now, Hilton, you work, but I know you work for a very diminished salary. You are executive director, and you have sacrificed your lifestyle to work at Heart of the Hamptons. And I hope you don't mind that I said that, but I think that is so admirable. And what a lot of people don't realize is that people that work for the different charities and for the different 501c3 organizations work because of their love of philanthropy. They sacrifice a big salary to do a service job to help a community. And Hilton, I want to just thank you, and I understand your wife, Mary Crosby, is head of the East Hampton Hospice, and you have two little daughters. And so, East End Hospice.
Yes,
so
East
the
End
two
Hospice.
of you are taking your time and perhaps sacrificing bigger salaries so that you could help the community. And so thank you. But let's
very
get back to
welcome.
the business of food
Sure.
pantries.
I'd like to say one thing, though. Our salaries are maybe in comparison to some that live in this area diminished. Yet, the sanctity of life that we live and the enjoyment and passion and difference that we make in this community is what fulfills our work and our being with family and being able to teach my children how to enjoy life and to enjoy others, and understanding that you need others and you need community.
And that you have to help.
That is the progress within what we are trying to educate people about the East End of Long Island. And the folks that live out here that utilize our food pantries are generally the people that provide the amenities for these folks that you talk about that are celebrity, that have affluence. And those folks need their yards mowed, they need their hedges clipped, they need their houses cleaned. And those folks are the people that are strapped in from the pandemic because they were unable to go into these homes to provide these services for the people on the East End. And these people that we serve here are your neighbors. They're in your home every day, and they are there to make this place what it is, so people want to be here and want to entertain their guests here. And these are the people that we support. They are the fabric and the fiber of the East End. And I believe that we are all a community together. And one thing that the pandemic has very much helped with is Russ and I being able to sit here with you, Gene, and communicate this to the people that you know and the philanthropists of the East End, so that folks can understand why Food Pantry exists in every community throughout America, and how it is something that is the fabric of community, which is so American.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. And just listening to you, I almost wanted to start to cry. I just want to add a few more things, because this is just extraordinary, the work you do. And I don't think anyone would disagree with what you're doing and the value, and also the value that the two of you add to society as working philanthropists.
Well, with respect, it's not only us. We have a lot of people. I'm only a small little nail or a spoke. We have volunteers, we have a board of directors, and every one of those people are right there, and they are giving their heart and souls to make a better way for those people who need food. We're very concerned about our senior citizens. A lot of people say, well, you know, they don't come out. Well, guess what? We go to them. We bring food right to their apartments or wherever they live, you know.
And that's wonderful.
Which is important for us. So, you know, I'm just, like I said, I'm just part of that little spoke that's involved, but there's a lot more people that do things, you know what I'm saying?
And how many volunteers do you have, Russ,
Well,
right
we
now?
average, we have a list, and we like to take our list and change it around every once in a while to give people a break, so to speak. But our list is very unique in that regard, because the protocol, so we have people who are experienced. We have more people trying to volunteer. I say trying because we only allow so many people on the property to do whatever we ask them to do. And I mean, we pack food, we put rice together. I mean, there's a multitude of things. We just don't take a box and put it in a bag. That's just part of it.
It's hard work.
Well, it is. I mean, we have vegetables, we have protein products, meat, stuff like that. So it's a pretty big operation when you think about it. And how about thinking about this. Try to put together 500 bags. Try that
It's a
for
lot
action.
of work.
That's a lot of bags to fill up. So, and where do you put the bags? That's the other issue. And there's a lot more to it, like where do you get the bags from? That was a big, big problem for us for the longest time, trying to get bags.
And did you finally get them?
Well, we do. We've had some of the institutions now. The Bridgehampton National Bank gave us some stuff. Chase now is involved with us. We reach out to these people and we say, listen, can you help us? And like nothing, but boom, they come right there and there they are.
Which is fantastic.
It is. And it's a lot of work. We've been very fortunate over the last several months where we have gotten some nice donations. We've had a lot of celebrities pitch in, I might add. I do know there was the South Fork Golf Club. They put together a big program for us. And there was some celebrities there. And, hey, Russ, how much do you need? You know, which to me, it breaks your heart. But there's these people helping.
Well, everyone has
know.
to work together. And when there's a pandemic such as what we've all been going through, everyone who's able to absolutely must give. And for those, I always say this, for those that have resources, we have an obligation to give. And now, Hilton, you accept volunteers as well, correct?
Yes,
to pack. And I understand you've been operating in the basement of a building at the Sacred Heart Church, and that your volunteers and your employees have had to actually carry up these heavy cartons of food or baskets of
30,000 pounds
food.
of food a week. In a 2-hour period.
I know I couldn't do that.
On a 2-hour period.
My back
on a
isn't that
Wednesday.
great, but and so now I understand you have a conveyor belt.
Yes, that was
and
very
that you're
generously
also
donated by a friend of ours.
wonderful, and that you're also thinking maybe of moving locations. Is that correct?
Yes, we are now hoping to be able to occupy the ambulance barn in Southampton Village due to the volunteer ambulance moving into their new beautiful facility that they have. So it's a garage space and it's on the ground level. And right as of now,
and would that be a big help?
Tremendous. Put it this way: just today we got a 5,000-pound delivery from Long Island Cares. Amongst that delivery was about 250 frozen chickens. We got frozen pork chops. All of this donated
Wonderful.
or done through TFAP programs through Long Island Cares that they orchestrate for us. And then they provide the food, we provide the numbers, and we all work together.
We got local people who
Dropping
bring
off
down
food, right?
a box of this, a bag of that, okay? All those little things add up, you'd be surprised. And even though, well, I can't volunteer, what can I do? Hey, bring a bag of groceries. And they bring a bag of groceries. We have people who donate food in the supermarkets. So instead of buying one coffee, they'll buy two, and they'll take one out and throw it into the food pantry thing. That's done also. We also have another organization out here which has been around. I think they were in New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken. And it's the JBJ Soul Kitchen. And those people, I can tell you, have really helped out not only our food pantry, but all the food pantries within the vicinity here at least.
Is that Bon Jovi's
That's
group?
correct.
And tell me a little bit about that.
Well, he's not for name and fame, I'll tell you that right now. I mean, I know of him.
Which is wonderful because he's doing all the hard work and
he's moving boxes. I seen this guy moving
amazing.
cases of soup and got a flat and he's moving this thing around and he's waiting for a truck. He jumps in a truck and this guy, I mean, he could hire people. No, he's right there and along with his bride. His wife, she's pretty much the boss. You know how that works. I don't want to get into that. But she runs the show and he's there.
And I think he likes to be quiet about all of it.
Right.
Well,
but I
not
really
one
have
for name
to
and
say,
fame, yeah.
He did
Bon
do
Jovi, thank you so much, and I thank your family for all you're doing to help with food insecurity on the eastern end of Long Island, as I thank East Hampton Food Pantry, as I thank Heart of the Hamptons, Long Island Cares, and a multitude of other groups. And we have about 5 minutes left, and I want to just get back to what's the best way any one of us can help? I know donations matter, and even though you're receiving supplies from other groups, without the donations, philanthropy can't exist because you have overhead to pay. You know, when you have a charity, things just don't happen. A charity generally has to pay rent on a facility that they occupy. They have to pay salaries, and then they have to work on programs. And a good charity keeps their expenses at under 20%, which means that they're able to give about 80% of what's brought in out to the public in programs. And so you need money to operate, correct? You need to have...
All institutions of sorts need money somewhere.
Absolutely.
The food pantries, you know, it's a priority in our town, to be quite frank, and in Southampton as well, all the towns. And the thing is, it's not as easy as you think. However, during this COVID thing, I mean, people really realize the impact this has done to families, communities.
It's a terrible thing.
And they're out there helping. And we get the phone calls every day, what can I do? What can I do? So we try to get financial donations, certainly. That's where it all starts, because it's easy for us to disseminate accordingly. However, come on down and maybe you can help out. Or bring a bag of groceries, drop off a can of coffee, anything like that. It helps. And there's a lot of needs too. For instance, we discussed this before. Our biggest problem was trying to get bags. Like, what do you put the groceries in? You couldn't get paper bags. I don't know what happened, that they all left the planet. We couldn't get paper bags for months. I don't think we still can. You guys using paper bags?
We are.
Oh yeah, see, we can't get them.
So you're using plastic bags.
Well, shopping bags, but they take the bag home. We don't want nothing back. We have a protocol, we're very strict. So you take a bag of groceries, and it's in a shopping bag, you take that, and we don't take any groceries back. Sometimes people, they get something they don't want, fine. Don't take it out of the bag, stays in the bag. If you want, give it to somebody in the family or local, whatever. That's important for us, because there are guidelines that we put together for this COVID issue, and very strict, very strict.
You have to follow them. And I know in the beginning, a lot of people that were volunteering at food pantries across the United States left as volunteers because many of them were in the age group between 60 and 70, and they were very much at risk and very fearful of contracting the COVID-19 virus. So when that happened, a lot of the food pantries across the United States found some of them had to close their doors, others had to find new volunteers. And sounds like both groups, you've found volunteers. The next thing you need is funding, and I know that because when this whole thing began, the big fear that a lot of us had was that people would not have any food to eat. And as a mother of 2 daughters, what's worse than thinking, I can't provide food for my children? And all of us know if you want your child's brain to develop, they have to eat. They have to have breakfast, they have to have lunch, they need protein, and they need enough food to keep them going. And so I would rather go without food than to see children without food. So Russ, we have a few minutes left.
Sure.
How can someone donate to the East Hampton Food Pantry? What is the website?
Well, it's www.easthamptonfoodpantry.org. We have a wonderful, wonderful website. On that website, it tells you so many things about our food pantry, gives all the statistics as to the amount of adults, the children, senior citizens, and so forth. But most importantly, you know, I feel I can get a violin out, because the thing is that when people donate, you have to understand a bag of groceries costs about 65 to 70 bucks. That's a lot of money if you think about it. So that's the money that we get from the donors to buy the groceries so that we could disseminate accordingly. So you figure that out, $60, $70, that's a lot of money for a bag of groceries.
So what that means is the small donations really count, and never feel that your $25 or $50 or $100 donation doesn't amount to anything. We have just a few seconds left. Hilton, how can we donate to Heart of the Hamptons?
In any way, shape, form, or fashion.
And what is the website?
Okay, heartofthehamptons.org. and we have a donation link there and a volunteer link, and we have our history of newsletters that we put out monthly that show our statistics and progress through our assistance programs and food pantry.
Wonderful.
And I'd like to just say thank you to everyone that has supported these efforts.
Good for you.
The outcry
Absolutely.
and the unprecedented support for us has been extremely heartwarming and motivating to the point where we could achieve these seemingly impossible feats through distributing 30,000 pounds in a two-hour period out of a basement 12 feet underground. I couldn't be more impressed with this community, and it just really, really want to say thank you to everyone that has helped out. Jean, the community at large, and everyone. We could not do this without you.
Wonderful.
And it's the only way it's going to work.
This concludes Successful Philanthropy. I want to thank all of our viewers, and I want to thank Russ Calemmo of East Hampton Food Pantry. Russ, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And Hilton Crosby of Heart of the Hamptons. Thank you. And to all of you, remember, we will get through this pandemic. Wear your mask, wash your hands, and do your social distancing. Thank you, and see you next week.